already so soon after declaring that I'm going to the micro-review format for these episodes, pretty much exclusively, I have to go back on that and talk about this one in a longer review format, because this was a really good episode. This was the first full 22-minute episode of Star vs. the Force of Evil, and I understand that there's going to be more of those later on. And I really enjoyed it. I thought stretching out the format of the show really did wonders for the storytelling. This episode wasn't as fast-paced as some past episodes have been, but it definitely allowed us to really take in the atmosphere of St. Olga's once we got there. The plot is fairly simple despite the added length of the episode. Ponyhead is in St. Olga's. Star wants to break her out, so she and Marco go there. They aren't able to get all the way into the school, though, with their scissors for some reason. So they have to sneak inside. Star disguises Marco as a princess, and then she alters her own clothing so that she doesn't look like herself anymore. Their plan works, they're able to sneak inside, but that's when they find out why they couldn't use the scissors to get in. There is a magic crystal protecting the school from having any portals open inside of it. Portals coming in or portals going out. That means that once those gates are shut, they're stuck in there until they can destroy that crystal. Thankfully, throughout this entire episode, Star does still have her wand. She's limited in how much she can use it because she doesn't want to be discovered, but she does still have it. This episode was equal parts Marco's episode and Star's episode. Star is terrified of St. Olga's from the moment she gets there, and she starts seeing indoctrination everywhere where Marco doesn't quite see it. Marco thinks she's being unreasonable. He sees just regular finishing school behavior. I mean, yeah, the castle that the school is located in is dark and dank, but he doesn't see anything weird about the behavior of the students specifically. Until they get to Ponyhead and see how changed she is. She's like an entirely different person, and then later see an entire room full of princesses chanting the same mantra at the same time over and over again. And to his credit, Marco immediately realizes what that means and goes back on his opinion that there's nothing weird going on in the school, and by the end even becomes really dedicated in getting these other characters their individuality back, even though he doesn't know them. He starts an uprising and then an all-out jailbreak. And yeah, it is in part a distraction for him and Star and Ponyhead to escape, but it was still a really cool thing for him to do. Marco is captured by the school a little bit at one point, and I will touch on that again, maybe even in later reviews if some of the things I've heard about the show are correct, but we'll get to that when we get to that. There's also the headmistress of the school that's kind of above all of the oppositional forces that the characters faced in this episode. They never really face her directly here, coming more into contact with her various minions. But by the end of the episode, it is hinted, if not outright confirmed, that she's heading to Earth now to get her revenge against Star and Marco. She knows where they came from. She's going to get them. And as she puts it, annihilate them. But we do get to see at one point in this episode that she used to be a rebellious princess too, with a strong sense of individuality. She has to re-indoctrinate herself using the same methods that the school uses to indoctrinate students. So I have a pretty good idea that I know where that storyline is going to end up. I also want to point out, I have gone on the record saying that I don't like Ponyhead. My opinion's changed a bit as of this episode. She's still not my favorite character or anything, but that moment where she recovers her individuality, where Star is losing her shit because Marco's been taken and her best friend has been essentially reprogrammed, and she starts to lash out against one of the school's posters, and Ponyhead joins in and she becomes the original Ponyhead again. The alterations to her hair, for example, that the school would put in unravel and her mane turns back to normal. That felt like a triumphant moment to me, and in my mind was the turning point for her character. She's not really a different character after that, but I understand her better now. And I have gone on this journey with her, so I care about her more. The episode ends with Star using her wand to destroy the magic crystal. People can now come and go from the school via portal. Ponyhead, however, decides to stay with the other princesses who have been released from the indoctrination to party with them, first of all, but also to prevent this from happening to anyone else. I'm a little worried about her because the headmistress is still there and we don't know exactly how dangerous she is yet. But leaving the episode on a cliffhanger like that was a fantastic idea because this is probably the first real, concrete indication that this show is going for an overarching continuity with interconnected stories and sequels. The introduction of toffee and fortune cookies implied that heavily, but this outright confirms that we are going to get a follow-up to this. The episode is left hanging too obviously and too completely for us not to, unless the writers on this show are just really incompetent, which they don't seem to be. Speaking of toffee, actually, I want to point something out. One of the princesses in the school looked like a member of his species. Not really anything to add to that, just it seemed interesting to me. It stood out. I feel like I have to touch on the Princess Marco thing a little bit here. Princess Marco is one of the few things that I knew about going into this show. There is a relatively large, or if not large, then a relatively vocal percentage of the fan base who thinks that Marco is either a trans character or a non-binary, gender-fluid character. And it is primarily because of the Princess Marco stuff. I guess he dresses up as Princess Marco more than one time throughout the course of the series, and he seems more and more comfortable in that persona the more he does it. So I feel like I have to comment on that now, and I will of course have to comment on it every subsequent time that we see him in this costume. At this point, I'm not getting those vibes from Marco in this persona. I want to be clear that I think it would be really cool if we found out at some point that he was trans in some way. There aren't enough trans characters in television, especially not television meant to be accessible to kids. It's representation that we don't get often, and I'd like to see more of it. But as of now, I don't think that he is. Maybe that'll change in due time, but as of now. Overall, though, I really liked this episode. I thought it was really freaking good. By far, I think probably the strongest episode of the show so far, even more so than Fortune Cookies. Though I will admit, I really do want to see more of Duffee. I hope that comes soon. But as per usual, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of this episode? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.